as far as Detroit is concerned, you know, what do you like most about Detroit, and what keeps you there, and why are you optimistic as to Detroit's future?
Well, what I like most about it is the people. It's historically a working class town, of course. And people come together when they need to come together. We're suffering a little bit economically because we depended so much upon the automobile industry. There are a lot of things that need to be done to improve, but I think it's coming back to being a more culturally diverse town. It used to be extremely polarized, and I travel a lot, and so I guess that's another reason why
But
I can say I love home.
but when you say polarized, I mean, we outside of Detroit always assume that there were so many black people there that how can you be polarized with all the black people there?
When I say polarized, I mean that at one point, most of the European Americans were moving out of the city. They're
Okay.
coming back. They're coming back. There's a lot of building going on with the two new stadiums downtown, lots of new condominiums, townhouses. People like Jerome Bettis, who was just in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, he's building a riverfront condo complex. People are coming back, and I think for economic reasons too, because when you live in suburbs and have to do a 50-mile commute each way, gasoline being what it is, they're coming.
I've noticed that with other ethnic groups, that they've read about American history and they know about slavery, but they don't know about the social and psychological holdovers, from slavery that we can't that we can't seem to get out of our psyche.
Well, I think Carter G. Woodson talked about that a lot with the miseducation of the Negro. Okay? And for the most part here in the United States, African Americans have been miseducated. Okay? And when you come up through many of these public education, miseducated systems, like Carter G. said in his book, you keep telling a person that they're inferior. They don't need to have chains on them. They will automatically go to the back door. Okay? You keep telling them that their culture is not important. They didn't really contribute anything to society that was positive. They begin to believe that. And so I think it's going to be imperative upon us in this new century, because some of us have been African-centered from day one, thanks to our parents. It's not because we learned about our history in the public education systems. It's because our parents always told us, oh, you're intelligent. You may not look like they do, but you have a brain. Use it. Okay? So, Willie Lynch, this color thing, this complexion thing, that's all racism. African-centeredness is a state of mind. Okay? I wore an afro for 31 years. Short, 1 inch, long, got mistaken for Angela Davis all during the 70s. Had to cut it down. The airlines made me cut it down to 1 inch. Okay? Just changed it this century because my daughter said, Mom, you've been wearing your hair the same way all my life. Let's go do something about you. Young people. What happened? After I did mine over, she cut hers and got a little afro in college. She's always known she's African. So it's inside, and I think that as I tell my students, when you know that you are descendants of kings and queens, you act differently. I allow my students to change their names to African names or the Europeans in the Spanish and French classes. They always select the African names with meaning. And they use those names. I see them years after they graduate, and they remember Abimbola. To know her is to love her. Akanke, intelligent, all these things. And so if the young parents know their history, and many of them are younger and younger and younger, they can teach the students, their children. And if they're not able to do it, I think it's our job as educators to make sure that they know that they have something to be proud of, that their ancestors contributed much. And much was stolen, but we still have to tell the story.
I appreciate talking with you because I haven't had a chance to speak with someone on that. They mean to drop a card here on having a in-depth dialogue on that because it just seems as though a lot of people are ashamed to be from the South, and they don't want to share those stories about how they were done. And I tell people who grew up in the South and who faced segregation when it was legalized that a lot of those stories aren't in the history books. And a lot of those stories need to be told by them. And some speak up, but some just prefer to forget. And they don't understand what a disservice they're doing to the younger people who didn't live during those time periods. That it makes us unnecessarily ignorant.
The miseducation of the Negro. Carter G. Woodson talked about it in 1930. And some of us are still miseducated. Asa Hilliard from Georgia, he comes to town to speak. Many of us are academically excellent, i.e. we've got some letters behind our names. Some of us let that go to our head, but we're not culturally excellent. You start talking about Africa, they want to get off the train, okay? And that's a problem. And so we have to do what we can to educate. I don't mean miseducate, but to educate these young people. Let them know there's nothing wrong with the way you look. You have a brain. Who gives Europeans the right to define beauty and to validate beauty? I don't think so. I don't think so. And yet, with my language background, I've got friends from all over the world. And I relate to them as an African woman because I know who I am. And so many times they're surprised once we get into a one-on-one. Oh, no, I'm not trying to be like anyone except me. I'm comfortable with me. And I say that in all modesty, no arrogance, because I had a mother, still do, who always told me, no, we don't have a whole lot of money. We didn't have any money. I paid my way through school, all 3 times. But she always said, you got a brain, baby. Use it.